Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Fluff It, a podcast about furries by furries. My name is Felix, and I am a purple wolf from the good old USA.
And I'm Uno. I'm a green and pink raccoon from the UK.
And we are glad that you have decided to spend part of your day with us. I hope you guys are doing well, and today we are going to be talking about what are Fursonas and why do furries have one, and what you could do to create your own Fursona. So, what is a Fursona exactly? Well, Fursonas are essentially an animal representation of you in the furry fandom. It can represent your favorite animal, your personality, what you aspire to be in the furry fandom. And for each person in the furry fandom, your Fursona or their Fursona means something different to them.
And to answer the question of why do furries have a Fursona, it's really a way to represent yourself, whether that be online or at a convention or a fur meet. But it's a representation of yourself within the furry fandom. So it's a way for people to get to know you kind of as what you want to present yourself as rather than just you. So for a lot of people, it can be a big boost of confidence and just a way to kind of feel a part of the fandom and be a little bit more connected to it.
Now, while Fursonas are not mandatory to have in the furry community, mostly every single furry does have one. And it is usually one of the first few things that furries will make when they do join the fandom. Now, for a lot of people, making a Fursona can be extremely difficult. And it can be very hard. And as this is our debut episode of Fluff It, we felt it was appropriate that we talked about making a Fursona, as it was something both me and Uno did when we made Felix and Uno. And we wanted to share our process of making our Fursonas and some tips that you can learn about making one, and then learning from our previous mistakes that might have entrapped us in making it a little bit harder than it should have been to make a Fursona.
So one of the first things you really need to think about when making a Fursona is choosing a species. And it doesn't matter if you can't think of one straight away or if it takes a while to choose the species that you think represents you the best. But it is kind of an important thing when it comes to, well, a very important thing when it comes to what your character is. So a lot of things you can think about is maybe what your favorite animal is, what animals you like, what animals you think represents you. And there's more than just the basic animals. There are made up species within the furry fandom. There's hybrids, there's mythical creatures, all sorts of different species. So there's a lot of choice. Everyone should be able to find something that suits them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. For me, I created Felix as a wolf, and wolves were my favorite animal growing up as a child, and wolves are still my favorite animal today. So I felt it was only realistic, or it was only, I guess would say, I felt like it was the animal that Felix should be, because I just feel very attached to wolves. But I mean, if you really like cats and if you really like kangaroos about equally, but you can't decide what you want, you could always create a cat kangaroo hybrid. There are plenty of hybrid species in the furry fandom. Just let your creativity out. And there are tons of unique, as Uno said, tons of unique species out there. There's like horse dragons called Dutch angel dragons. There's like protogens, which is kind of like this hybrid species that's robotic. There's really no way you could go wrong. I mean, people even made plants and like machinery type Fursonas.
Yeah, definitely. So there's literally thousands and thousands of options. So again, for me, I mean, I'm a raccoon. So raccoons were always one of my favorite animals. But originally, I was kind of leaning towards a wolf as well, or a coyote at one point, because they were always a couple of my favorite animals. But when I was thinking about an animal that really represents me, I just thought of a raccoon, because I'm kind of a little bit nocturnal, and I like to eat a lot and I like to search for things, and I'm just kind of like a raccoon in general. So I always thought, oh, a raccoon kind of represents me. And also I created Uno around the time that the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie was kind of announced, and I was really obsessed with Rocket Raccoon.
Oh.
And I was kind of connected to him as a character. which was again another reason why I picked a raccoon as my character. But yeah, so
I
it's
never knew
definitely
that.
about choosing either something that represents you, or it can be as simple as just an animal that you like the look of, or a hybrid of two animals that you like the look of, or even making something up entirely yourself. You could create your own species and give it a name and make a fursona out of that. So there really is no limits to what you want to make as a fursona.
While on the topic of creating a species, another thing that is brought up when you create a fursona is color scheme. So if you look at different furries, fursonas, fursuits, you can see that there are many different ways a character can look. You have purple wolves, green raccoons, pink foxes, or like even like polka dot dragons. It can be anything you want. Typically, how I chose my color scheme. So when I created Felix, growing up as a child, I was obsessed with purple. I don't know why I was crazy with the color purple, but it has always been my favorite color. And I especially really like the light purple lavender hue. So when creating Felix, I was like, hey, I really like this color and I really like wolves. So why not combine both? And then with Felix, while he occasionally has different colored outfits now, when I created Felix, I usually gave him a gold and white and dark blue color scheme for an outfit. And I chose that because I am a huge Georgia Tech college sports fan. And their colors are white, gold, and dark blue. So when you create a fursona and their color schemes for either the fur, the outfit, it can be really what's your favorite color, stuff that you really enjoy. Like creating a species, there's really no wrong way of doing it.
Yeah, definitely. So again, this kind of goes hand in hand with choosing a species, because as in the same way that you can have any species you like, you can have any color scheme you like. So mine was kind of a weird one, because when I was first getting into the furry fandom, there were a lot of fursuiters and furries who kind of based their color schemes on things like drinks, which sounds kind of weird, but there was a species known as sodaroos that were like based on different drinks, and I just really liked them. So Uno was actually based on the apple and raspberry J2O drink. But it was kind of weird how I came up with the color scheme, because I kind of, once I decided I wanted a raccoon, I kind of drew a load of raccoon heads and then just gave them all different color schemes. And the one that I'd based on the apple and raspberry, which is the pink and green, was just the one that really stood out to me. I just really liked that one. And that just ended up sticking. Like, I was kind of thinking, oh, I might keep this for a while and then change it. But it really just stuck. And I've never grown out of the design. I've always really liked it. So yeah, you can definitely either just choose your favorite color, the color scheme that you think looks nice, or you can base them on something that either means something to you or just something that you think has quite a cool color scheme, which is pretty much what I did. So yeah, the possibilities are really endless.
Yeah, that sounds extremely fascinating. I've never heard about soda coons, so I now need to look that up. My character based off of that. But yeah, for me, I spent maybe a lot less time than you did. I wanted to make a purple wolf, and there's really no other colors that really spoke to me. So I find that fascinating. But like me and Uno, your process might be completely different than ours, and that's completely okay. Like I said, if you have multiple colors that you like, or you can always try them, like how Uno did with like how Uno has created her raccoon, and there's really no wrong way doing a color design. But one of the things that I feel like is extremely difficult, this was very difficult for me, and I'm pretty sure this is the thing that trips up so many furries, is naming your fursona. Because I feel like some furries take it as seriously as naming your hypothetical child. For me, it took me a little bit. I did settle on Felix kind of sooner versus most names that I thought of. And for example, Felix, it's an interesting story because Felix was my Latin name in high school. So I did Latin as a foreign language class in high school. And like, I don't know if anywhere else does this, but in my school system, they felt like one way to feel immersed in the language classes was you adopted a name from that culture. So when I took Spanish class, I had a Spanish name, Jacinto. I might have butchered that. But in Latin class, I adopted Felix as my Latin name. And that was where I also considered the alternative name for Felix, Pluto. But I just felt like that Felix just started to grow more and more as I just started to consider naming Felix. So, and Felix just sounds a lot better than Pluto, in my opinion. So for me, naming wasn't that difficult. It did take some time, but I felt like my situation is very different than most people's.
Yeah, definitely. So choosing a name is something that can be pretty difficult, but again, it can really be whatever you like. So like how Felix was saying, that's kind of a story that's a little bit more, I guess, personal in a way, or just like it ties into a story as such. Whereas you really can name your persona after whatever. So mine was kind of a weird story as well, because at the time that I made Uno, I just could not think of a name because I'm hopeless at naming characters. But at the time, I was just kind of really into, well, I'm really into alternative music. And I was just kind of very first starting to get into that at the time. So I was really into Green Day because they're like a very sort of basic alternative band. And they actually have an album called Uno. It's one of the later albums, I think.
Huh.
And it actually has a pink and green cover. And to begin with, it was really just a nickname for my character. I was like, oh, he has the same color scheme. I'll just call him Uno. And it's not going to stick. I'm going to think of something better. And I just never thought of anything better. So it really just stuck. And that was years ago. So yeah, it's been Uno ever since. I never thought of anything better than that. But I kind of like that anyway, because I sort of knew that I wanted a simple name, and just something that could just sort of a short, simple name that would sort of look good online and stuff. So that was how I named mine. But really, it can come from anywhere. It can be something that you like, something, just a word, or like a normal name, or anything really. It's really hard to kind of give examples because it really can just be anything.
Yeah,
But yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I chose Felix for a similar reason. I did it because it was simple and it just sounded good when you said Felix. Because in Latin class, it wasn't Felix, it was Felix. And when I was designing names, I was like, I don't know if I like Felix, but Felix just sounded a lot better. And I think simple names in some ways are the best names for your persona, because it's like Mickey Mouse is Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny is Bugs Bunny, Scooby Doo is Scooby Doo. There's no wrong ways of naming your persona, but there are definitely some things, like having simple names that might be easier for people to remember. That's why I chose Felix over Felix. Felix was my Latin name technically, because we did Latin correct pronunciations in my Latin class, but I just felt like for me, Felix rang a little bit better, and I liked the sound of Felix over Felix. But like what Uno said, you can do anything and do whatever you want. I mean, don't let me or Uno tell you what to do with naming your persona. Don't feel pressured that you have to do a simple name. Just have fun and enjoy the process.
Yeah, so similar to names, color schemes, species, all of the things that we spoke about already, your persona's personality can really be whatever you want it to be. A lot of people will choose to go with their own desired personality. So your persona will often be sort of an extension of you. So for example, Uno is very much me in most ways, but just a little bit more extroverted and a little bit more kind of more cartoony, because that's how I draw and that's how I present my characters, but really just a bit more extroverted, a bit more sort of hyper and yeah, so really your personality that you choose for your persona can be absolutely anything, but the kind of go-to thing that most people will do is sort of an extension of themselves and how they wish they could be and how they wish they could kind of present themselves when meeting other people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you said. For me, with Felix, Felix is very symbolic because I am a try and be very optimistic. So I try and make Felix extremely optimistic, very upbeat, happy. And I kind of kept that, given that Felix means happy in some languages, including Latin. And I guess for me, I try to be more confident. I have some social anxiety issues. So I try and have Felix kind of be more positive, more confident about who he is. And that's what I try and strive for. And there's a lot of personality that I do put into Felix that I guess you could say represents me extremely well. But I feel like there are a lot of people when they make furries, they're kind of in the spectrum of having a fursona that is very much like them, a fursona that of something they wish they could be better in, or a fursona that is completely different and personality wise. Those are sometimes the rarest forms of fursonas, but I have definitely seen people where they want to create a wacky, crazy, zany character for fun. And those types of fursonas definitely exist and they work very well. It's just what type of Sona do you want? For what personality do you want your Sona to be? And it's okay to completely change your Fursona's personality over time. People grow, people change, people have personality evolutions, and occasionally our desires change. So for example, I might want Felix to be more confident because that's something I really want to strive for myself, is to grow in self-confidence. So I might have Felix become more confident over time.
Yeah, so that definitely, I think confidence is kind of a big thing, because I think a lot of people create a fursona, especially when it comes to fursuiting as well, because wearing a fursuit can really be a big boost of confidence for a lot of people, myself included. So definitely, I think a lot of people will create a fursona that has the kind of confidence that they want to have. And as well, like what Felix mentioned, having a fursona that's really kind of upbeat, that's something that I've seen a lot of, because I feel like a lot of people try to be really positive and upbeat, again, myself included. So I think creating a fursona that sort of is really sort of happy and outgoing and confident can be a really good option. And also when wearing a fursuit, that's kind of quite a popular way to sort of portray your character when you're actually fursuiting. But I have to edit that bit out.
Words are hard.
They are. But yeah, again, it can really, your fursona can really have any personality you like. So if you wanted to have a really grumpy, angry kind of character, or a really kind of moody character, or whatever you wanted, like that's absolutely okay. And also, like, having, you can always have more than one fursuit, more than one fursona, not necessarily just fursuits, because you definitely don't have to have a fursuit if you don't want one. But yeah, definitely, to kind of sum it all up, whatever personality you want. And it's okay to kind of play around with personalities as well. Like, you could try one thing, and if you think that doesn't really suit you, you can try a different thing. There's no rules to it, there's no right or wrong, so just have fun with it, and over time you'll probably find the personality that suits your fursona.
You said something that I think a lot of people need to consider or need to think when they do make a fursona.
Yeah.
That it is a huge, it is not like time is your friend, not your enemy.
Yeah.
I feel like when people make fursonas, they feel like that they have to do it now.
Yeah.
And they have a short amount of time. And take your time with this. And it is okay to change your fursona up. I used to be a tiger. I felt like I needed to be a unique species, and I just didn't feel like a tiger didn't really reflect me as a person, and I wasn't crazy with tigers as much as I'm crazy with wolves. And it is completely okay to start over again. Most people go through 2 or 3 fursonas within their lives. So don't feel like this is like life or death. Just have fun with your fursona, and it is okay to have more than one fursona. For me, I have, I guess, maybe 4 fursonas. Felix is definitely my main, but I have a Darwin's fox named Charles, which kind of going back to the more like extreme personalities. I really like goofy characters and silly characters such as like Donald Duck or Wile E. Coyote. So I have Charles kind of like being this more extreme daredevil type loony character that would be more zany than most realistic people would be like. But that's the great thing with personas, and very much like cartoon characters on TV, they can be anything and they can be as silly or as grumpy as you want them to be.
Yeah, definitely. And to expand on that as well, you really can have as many personas as you want. Like I see a lot of people, or used to see a lot of people kind of saying, oh, you need to stick to one or two, but you really can have as many as you want. I, at the moment, have kind of three main ones, but another of my characters is Dorian. And he's this kind of more like extravagant, kind of really outgoing, really confident character, and he's a little bit different to Uno in that, like, Uno is this kind of slightly more silly, cartoony, slightly more confident than me, but sort of cartoony representation of me, whereas Dorian is this really sort of confident kind of, he's kind of like a circus showman type of character, and he's a lot more crazy looking in this design. He's a hybrid of a wolf and a deer, so he's the sort of more crazy, like extravagant, flamboyant kind of side, whereas Uno is sort of more of an extension on me. But they both do kind of represent parts of me in a way, so it's really about however you want to be, and don't feel like it has to be confined within one character, because sometimes it's just really difficult to put everything you want into one single character. So have as many as you want, play around with it and have fun, and yeah. That's all there is to it, really.
Yeah. The only person you need to please when you make a fursona is yourself. So make as many fursonas as you want, and just make fursonas that will be fun and enjoyable to you. Do not feel pressure to make something that someone is trying to make you do. Do it for yourself and enjoy the process. Now, one thing or a couple of things if you are stuck when making a fursona. So these are some tips that I have done when creating certain fursonas or characters. So first off, I am a huge stuffed animal collector. I really love stuffed wolves, and as a child growing up, I gave each of my stuffed animals a name and personality. Had like this very moody otter named Cameron. I had this very perky, happy wolf. So if you are stuck on creating a fursona, if you had like a stuffed animal with a name or a personality that you've given in a past, that might be a good start off point. Or another tactic that I use a lot that works for me is video game avatars. So I play a game called Toontown Rewritten, and I created a blue fluffy bunny called Truffles. And he is my avatar. And over time, I've grown to bond with that character. And in many ways, he is my tertiary fursona behind Felix and Charles, just because I've just grown so much to love Truffles. But if you have like a stuffed animal or a video game avatar that you really enjoy, you can very much base your characters off of those. And your character doesn't even have to be an animal. So I really like Splatoon as well. And I had this inkling that I turned into a squirrel called Martin. And that is probably one of my more favorite character designs that I've done recently.
Yeah, so it really is a case of just taking inspiration from wherever you can get it. So like what Felix said, video game avatars and stuffed animals are a really, really good way to come up with something if you're feeling a bit stuck, or even just in general, if that's something that kind of inspires you. And really, as well, you can really take inspiration from existing characters, as long as you're not kind of blatantly copying them, which I don't think many people would be anyway. Totally fine to sort of take inspiration from characters that you like. For me, I'm a really big fan of like classic cartoons, so I love Looney Tunes. I grew up with Looney Tunes, so the way that I draw Uno and the way that I made the fursuit of him, the style is this really cartoony kind of style, which is reflected in my own artwork, and that took a lot of inspiration from Looney Tunes and my kind of childhood cartoons. And I was a really big Sonic fan as well, so the way I draw eyes are very kind of Sonic-like. And yeah, so really just inspiration can really come from anywhere, and sometimes thinking about what inspired you as a child as well. So what would your 5-year-old self design, or what were you into when you were younger that means a lot to you and could kind of be incorporated into a fursona, or even just something that you're into in general. It really can just come from anywhere. There's absolutely no real rules to it at all.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would highly encourage people to definitely take what they like and incorporate it into their personas. Like, I agree. If you're not inherently like copying and pasting, you're fine. For me, I really grew up with Toontown. I really grew up with old Disney cartoons. And when I design my characters, I really try to reflect that toony type cartoony style and personality into each of my characters. But there are literally so many ways you can go with your fursona, and like what Uno said, be imaginative and this open yourself to so much ideas. Don't feel afraid about an idea. Just let yourself be imaginative and be creative with the process, and I am pretty confident that you will be able to make a perfect fursona for you.
So that's pretty much all there really is to it. When it comes to creating a fursona, there's really no rules to it. There's no right or wrong, but there's a lot of ways in which you can take inspiration and tips, which are kind of the things that we've covered today. So honestly, just have fun with it. Make something that you like, that you enjoy. The most important thing is that it's enjoyable to you, that you have fun making it, and that it means something to you. It doesn't have to be super personal. It doesn't have to be super complex. It can be whatever you want, as complex as you like, as simple as you like. Really, there really is no right or wrong way to go about it. But yeah, that is really all there is to it. The most important thing is to just have fun. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Have fun, guys. And let us know what personas you make after hearing this podcast, and if the podcast helped.
Yeah, we'd love to see your creations, and hopefully this was helpful, or at least entertaining, even if it wasn't. So if you would like to support us, we have an Instagram. Just look up Fluff It Podcast on Instagram, give us a follow. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you have any comments, any questions, any ideas for future topics, anything of the sort, feel free to drop us a message over on Instagram. We'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. If you would like to support us as well, we do have a Patreon, Fluff It Podcast as well, if you'd like to check that out. Hopefully we will have some more content coming up on there very soon. And yeah, that's pretty much all. I hope you all enjoyed the podcast, and more will be coming very soon.
Yeah, but thank you guys for tuning in for our episode. For the next episode of Fluff It, we are going to be talking about the parents' guide to furries and how they should react. And we're going to be talking about how our parents reacted when we came out as furries and some of the experiences we've had with them as furries, such as when my dad in a business suit showed up at a furry convention, or when he asked me to draw the entire family as furries for our Christmas cards. But until the next episode, we really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. We really hope to see you in the next episode as well. And that will be coming very soon. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone, and stay fluffy.